The only thing that Francis Ngannou fumbled is his health and safety, because he'll be fighting Tyson Fury this October in Saudi Arabia. It's on, it's official. He's finally gotten that mega payday. So from one man to another, shout out to Francis Ngannou. I'm really happy for him. But at the same time, I'm happy that he's gone from the UFC, guys. He was a pain in the ass to deal with. Let's just be honest. This guy's been holding up the heavyweight division for a long time. And guess what? Tyson Fury is the man that's holding up the heavyweight division in boxing. And guys, not only has Francis Ngannou won in the end, if you're not on board with that, then at this point, you're just in denial. This is not a great thing for the UFC. Now, yes, it's good in regards to the fact that we're no longer going to have a heavyweight champion holding up the division and blue balling fans and not giving us as many fights as we want. Okay, I understand that. Francis Ngannou is fireworks in the cage, but he's never in the cage. Okay, we could just say that. It is what it is. For the UFC, though, a lot of their stars now, all right, that are looking at what Francis Ngannou is about to getting a fight with Tyson Fury, which is similar to Conor fighting Floyd Mayweather. I mean, how many people actually expected this to work out in his favor? A lot of us were saying this is never going to happen. Francis isn't a big enough star to fight Tyson Fury. The whole boxing world, including Tyson Fury, looks at this as a joke. He wants bigger challenges, but he just entertained a Francis Ngannou fight, and it's actually going to happen. I mean, Francis Ngannou is showing all of these UFC fighters that, dude, if you become a champion, if you make a name for yourself in MMA, you could just leave and get a bigger payday. Just build your stardom up in the UFC. They're really good at promoting their fighters, and then bounce, because ultimately, you're not going to get the biggest paydays in the UFC, bro. That's how it is. And sure, you're going to get the respect and you're going to be the baddest dude on the planet in reality, because we all know the baddest guys on the planet are MMA fighters. And you have a guy like Alexander Volkanovski that's all about legacy and tests, and he wants to just be a hard, gritty worker, right? But Francis Ngannou, of course, the guy worked hard throughout his career, but it's not all about proving that he's the grittiest, toughest, hardest working guy in the game. He wants to ultimately get out on top. And now the UFC has got to be a little bit worried that, well, shit, what if our other stars are going to get entertained by the idea of going to boxing? What if Sean O'Malley becomes a champion, defends his belt one time, and then wants to go out there and box who? Like Gervonta Davis, or wants to box Ryan Garcia? That's not going to be good for us. He might just be keen with becoming a UFC champion, having that under his belt, being able to tell everyone that, you know what, I was legit in MMA. I got to the fucking peak, but now I want to get my shit settled. I want to have the money to where I'll be happy and I'll be set for life. They have to deal with that now. So it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC does in response to this when it comes to how they negotiate with their fighters, or how they're going to set up fighter pay from here on out. Because I know that they have to do something to be able to stop this, right? You don't want all of your champions just defending their belt once and then bouncing and getting out. And I absolutely love the contrast in reactions between the boxing community and the MMA community. Everyone in the MMA side of things is cheering for Francis. Finally, he got the bag, he got the respect he deserves. This guy's winning in life. Shout out to him. And then, of course, you have all the boxing fans in shambles, just devastated. Fuck, man, Fury should be stripped. This guy's a joke. He's only fought Klitschko and Wilder, who can't even box, and Klitschko is at the end of his prime, and other than that, he's taken on a bunch of bums, and he's ducking Usyk. We're not getting the fights we want. And you know what, boxing fans? I'm with you. I find it so cringy and just weird that people are saying, oh, I can't wait. Anything can happen. This is going to be mind-boggling. No, it's not. It's a one-sided beatdown. It's not an interesting fight at all. Okay, there's nothing here to see other than two men getting a big payday. That's it. They're just going to be taking all of your money and robbing us, guys, for nothing. Tyson Fury's going to beat this man into a pulp, all right? So as far as I'm concerned, Dan Hardy, I just saw him comment on someone's Instagram saying, this is going to be great. I can't wait. What's so great about it? Francis is going to get destroyed. He's going to get knocked out badly. Now, cool. If it's worth it for him in the end, God bless him, dude. He's getting a big bag. If you're a Tyson Fury family member, good for you, man. That's some generational wealth. But for us fans, we're getting screwed here, okay? Like, Tyson Fury is not giving the boxing fans what they want. I would so much rather watch Fury and Usyk, and I'm not really a boxing fan, but I would sure as hell tune into that. I've watched a lot of Tyson Fury's fights, but I didn't watch his against Derek Chisora, and I'm not watching him fight anyone that's not actually a test. I was watching his fights with Deontay Wilder. The trilogy they had was one of the best fights I've ever seen of all time, regardless of what the sport is. I mean, that was an amazing fight. I get it, man. I'd be really pissed off too This is basically like John Jones refusing to fight Sergey Pavlovich if Pavlovich was coming off of, twice the amount of first round KOs that he has right now. Imagine if Pavlovich had knocked out 10 dudes in a row. Like, let's say he goes out there, KOs Tom Aspinall and KOs Jilton Almeida, and John Jones on his last fight calls out some boxer, some WWE guy, and says, this is the real test, baddest man on the planet, and he holds up the division. It would be a pain in the ass. I get it. I'm not going to get hyped for this at all. At all. It's just going to be a spectacle. Will I watch it? Sure. Am I going to be taking a wad of cash out of my pocket and say, take my money? No. I'll probably just watch the highlights the next day, to be honest, because if there's something else on that night, maybe the UFC fights are going to be on, they'll do a fight night, I'd rather just watch that, because as far as I'm concerned, guys, this isn't an interesting fight. We've seen it time and time again. It's not like Conor going over to fight Floyd Mayweather. Conor McGregor was one of the most skilled strikers in MMA. It's not even like Anderson Silva going to boxing to fight a big level boxer. It's not like that. It is one of the sloppiest, messiest punchers in MMA that basically has gotten by with his insane power. Now, yes, I will be fair to Francis. He's had moments where he's been incredibly technical and he's outclassed people. Look at the rematch that he had with Stipe. He was patient, but that's a different kind of fight. That's stuffing a takedown and, setting up a perfect check left hook to catch Stipe coming in. But it's different when you're in there with Tyson Fury that's classically trained in boxing. And we've seen it time and time again, even when MMA fighters fight Jake Paul. That's a guy that only has, 4 or 5 years of boxing training, but that's all he's been doing. It's the boxing rhythm. It's so different from MMA striking and MMA boxing. And so when you take a guy that's even really solid in the boxing department in MMA, because their movements are different and they're used to fighting a different kind of rhythm, and there's the threat of the takedown and the kicking range that you have to take into account as well, they just don't really stand a good chance to outbox someone that only boxes. And that's going to be taken to the 10th degree now that we have a sloppy guy like Francis that only has a puncher's chance. And look at what Tyson Fury was able to do to Deontay Wilder. I mean, Deontay Wilder at least has that boxing rhythm down. And for sure, he's wild and he's not necessarily the most technical boxer, but he's 10 times the boxer that Francis is, and he probably hits harder than him. So if Tyson Fury can beat Wilder, and sure, he's had tough fights with him, like the third fight, and of course, the first fight where he outclassed him for the majority of it, but still got knocked down in the early rounds. I can't see Francis Ngannou being a big test for Tyson Fury. So yes, good for Francis. He's getting a big bag. If you're going to sit here and deny the fact that he's winning in life at this point, you're just too afraid to admit that you're wrong. Because when he originally left the UFC, was of the opinion that this ain't going to work so well for him. I can't see any boxing promotion or MMA promotion allowing him to do both. My take is, if I'm the UFC or if I'm the, WBC or whatever promotion you're really trying to get at, guys, I don't want my champions, frolicking around in other sports because they need to represent me. You need to be an ambassador for your company. Imagine someone like Shohei Ohtani bouncing from baseball to play basketball for a month. Do you think the MLB is going to allow that? Do you think the MLB wants Shohei Ohtani to put on an NBA jersey and just basically say, nah, fuck the MLB, that shit's whack. Let me do something else. Let me get a little more clout in the NBA because there's more people watching, there's more money to be made, and then I'll come back. Maybe not the best example because there's a shitload of money to be made in baseball, but you kind of understand my point. The UFC didn't want Francis Ngannou to make their promotion look like the lesser of them all, right? And that's what Francis Ngannou is basically setting out to do. He wants to get a big payday because he knows he won't get it from the UFC. And it's no secret that the UFC is not just dishing out big bags and boatloads of money to all of their champions, right? They're paying them well, but they're not paying them that boxing money. And this is what Francis has wanted the whole time. Now, of course, a lot of people like to bring up the fact that Francis Ngannou is setting aside legacy. Francis could have became the heavyweight GOAT if he were to defeat John Jones. Bro, the fact that you guys think it would have been a good idea for him to risk losing to John Jones and then trying to get the bag when it comes to boxing is a little bit silly, bro. That's something that probably wouldn't have worked out in his favor. I think most of us would agree that John Jones would have taken Francis out. And imagine him then trying to leave MMA to try to sell himself as an eligible threat to Tyson Fury after getting destroyed. It's just not good optics, even though it's a different sport and he has a different kind of style for Tyson Fury, and Jon Jones is probably just going to wrestle him. It doesn't look good to see a guy get his ass kicked and then try to sell it as this is the baddest man on the planet. Let's put him up against the other baddest man on the planet in boxing. Do you guys really think that Francis Ngannou is all about becoming the MMA heavyweight GOAT? No, he's already become a champion, and that's probably what's most important for him. And at the end of the day, what's ultimately important for Francis Ngannou is getting a massive payday and also being able to have like the freedom and respect that he wants to move around into different promotions. Now, to be fair, guys, from a business standpoint, it's not a good look to let one of these athletes just do that. You want them to represent you. And when it comes to the PFL, I think the PFL is going to get walked all over by Francis because he's going to fight Tyson Fury and then he's going to show up to fight one of their cans, and at most he'll defend one more time. But he's not really going to be all that active in the PFL, and the PFL is going to be dishing out tons of money and they're going to look like a joke in the end. So I don't think Francis cares about his legacy in MMA. No, he wants the bigger and better legacy. He wants to show people that you can leave the UFC and you can still make it big time. Sure, he's not going to be fighting Jon Jones, but come on. Do you really think that fight was ever going to happen? The way that things were going, those men were never going to be able to settle things out. They were never going to come to an agreement. So we just have to accept that that's not in reality anymore, okay? The ship has sailed. If I'm looking at this from an MMA fan's perspective, I'm happy about it, man. Francis Ngannou is gone. The guy was a pain in the ass to deal with. Let's be real. Think about all the time he took off before fighting Ciryl Gane. Right? It wasn't just that Jon Jones didn't want to fight Francis Ngannou following the Stipe KO. Remember when Francis was ready to make a quick turnaround and Jones said he needed more time off and went into hiding after Francis put Stipe into orbit? Well, a lot of people seem to forget. But the issue is, instead of Francis making a quick turnaround after Jon Jones was nowhere to be found, he took a whole year off to wait for Ciryl Gane, who was an eligible opponent. Remember, they gave Ciryl Gane an interim title shot, whereas they could have just made Francis and Gane that summer. So Francis takes another year off, and then he fights Ciryl Gane. He takes another year off, blue-balling MMA fans, teasing the prospects of him coming back, him re-signing. It doesn't end up working. We have to wait a whole year for Jon Jones to come back to fight Ciryl Gane. And I'm pretty happy that he's no longer going to be doing that, right? At least we see Jon Jones fighting twice this year. I mean, we're going to get 2 heavyweight title fights this year. That's gold, but that should be the bare minimum. I mean, we shouldn't be freaking out about, wow, 2 heavyweight title fights in 1 year. There should be 2 or 3 every goddamn year. That should not be, something that's out of the norm. Dude, this is a big win for MMA. Francis Ngannou is getting his bag, and he's no longer a nuisance for us MMA fans. Listen, I know a lot of you guys are Francis fans. I get it. But there's a difference between admitting that this guy has won in life versus saying and trying to lie to yourself that he was somehow this like super entertaining champion. Bro, he was fireworks in the cage, but he only got in the cage once every year and a half, all right? So it was like always going to be a pain in the ass and just straight blue balls, bro. He was always just going to never fight the contenders that we wanted him to fight. And there are so many top contenders in the heavyweight division. Think about Sergey Pavlovich. Think about Jailton Almeida. You think those guys are going to be sitting out for years on end? Those dudes are hungry as hell. I saw a video of Jailton Almeida at a banana stand in Brazil the other day. Literally just chilling in the favelas at a fruit stand. You think Francis Ngannou is chilling at fruit stands in the day? Maybe actually when he goes to Cameroon, bro. But Jailton's still in the hood, man. And Sergey Pavlovich, all this dude cares about is training. I just see him training in the gym. That's it. He doesn't have anything else going on for him. So these guys are just obsessed and hungry. They're not at that level of Francis Ngannou at this point to where they feel like they've made it and they want to go on to do different things. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time. What is up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA here, and I want to let you guys know that I have something for you, and that's a real food cookbook. Because if you're walking around looking like Chris Dawkins, you got to get that weight off. I don't know if you think you're DC or something, but most people usually don't perform at their best when they're walking around with 30% body fat. So if you're trying to lean out and you still want to eat good, tasty comfort foods, well, you could check out my Real Food Cookbook, because I've made it a purpose to have good, tasty foods that you can still eat just without all the processed bullshit, without all the processed ingredients like soy and seed oils. So guys, check out the Real Food Cookbook. Use code MMA for 30% off. The link is in my description. Don't forget that discount.